Give people a minute to log in. I'm gonna bring up Alan to the stage, Cryptonovo.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Alan, yeah.
Hey.
Coming through loud and clear. Hey, Sebastian. Vicky, hey.
Twice in here.
Yeah, you probably want to make either me or Novo host just in case, so it's easier.
Oh yeah, I have Novo as the co-host. Alan, I'll add you too.
Welcome all my aliens, apes, and zombies.
Cryptonovo in the house. Green Giant, hey. Yar, hello.
Are we letting people up?
Hey,
Running? Are we letting people up?
So far for this one, we are gonna have special guests.
Oh, I see.
Green Giant, Cryptonovo, Alan, and I'm looking for Chris Choice. We can go ahead and kick it off. So we really just wanted to host this space. First of all, my name is Leslie. We wanted to have you all here and answer some of your questions. We'll be hosting this every Tuesday. We'll try every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time to go through some of your questions. So feel free to tweet them to us, and I mean, maybe we can even come up with like a POAP just for people asking us great questions. I don't know. The future is unclear. Anything is possible. But we'll be talking about all things NFTs, any Vayner NFT questions, and yeah, anything that comes up. So checking with you, Alan and Novo. Do we see? Right. Gang's all here. So if we could just go through, let's give some introductions. So I'll start. My name is Leslie. You can find me at Leslie GMI. I'm a senior account manager here at Vayner NFT. So I help onboard some of the clients and make awesome NFT projects for brands getting into the space, making sure that they don't mess with what we have going on with the culture and things like that. So I will pass it on to Alan. You want to introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi, I'm Alan. I'm with Vayner as an NFT strategist. I think a couple months now. And yeah, it's been super interesting being at like the intersection of like mainstream brands and the sort of niche NFT space. Very exciting.
Very exciting. Thank you, Alan. How about Mr. Chris Choice?
Cool. Hey, everyone. Excited to be here. My name is Chris Choice. I am the head of technology here at Vayner NFT. Been here probably about 3 or 4 months. Everything's pretty new, but I've been in the Ethereum world for a while and really excited to be in a spot where I can combine some of my own passions in life with my work life, which is really awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the best parts of working at Vayner NFT is actually doing this, something we're already passionate about for work. So that's been incredible. Nathan, Mr. Green Giant, how are you doing? You want to introduce yourself really quick and maybe share some exciting news with the audience?
Hey everyone, thanks Leslie. So yeah, my name is Green Giant and we've got something special for you guys at the end. We're going to be involving co-ops with this because we want to reward you guys for listening in and yeah, so make sure to stay tuned till the end and yeah, we'll be showing you some cool things.
That's right. Amazing. Okay. Cryptonovo.
Yes. Welcome all my aliens, apes, and zombies. I'm so excited to be here, with some great people at Vayner NFT. And a lot of this, what I do is being a strategist is educating, not only educating the brands, but trying to get, the masses to learn about NFTs. And that's part of the educational process, is coming on Spaces today and getting some questions, not only from myself that we're going to give to some of the people up here that are co-hosting with us, but also some questions that people have submitted over the past 12, 24 hours. So, we can be of better service to answering these questions. And I'm actually going to kick it off with a question to Alan. And Alan, how many hours would you recommend, someone do research prior to either making an NFT or possibly, looking into purchasing an NFT? None of this is ever financial advice, but, how many hours of research would you recommend someone putting in towards, the NFT process?
Well, I think there's definitely two separate, there's a big difference between creating an NFT and buying one, right? Because I'll not ignore, I'll put to the side actually making one. I think that's a much more time intensive investment of not just your time and more planning. But as far as different, like if you're looking to do like, I don't know, I'll just say some amount of speculation, or you just like art or NFTs, I would say you want to put in a lot of time. So much time that by the time you make a financial decision to buy something, you're doing it with some amount of like context, like very strong context and learned conviction. And what I mean by that is like, I think a lot of people, they just will look for trends or see what other people are buying and they buy it and they're like, I don't even know why I have this. And if it doesn't go up, then they're not comfortable with their decisions, and then they basically are more reactive than proactive in whatever actions they take or don't take. So I would say put in so much time, and this is not just for NFTs, this is for crypto. Put in so much time so that by the time you're actually putting money down to buy something, that you have a very strong conviction and reasoning into why you're doing something, whether it's short-term or long-term, right? And I think if people do that, that'll go a long way. Now, as far as creating, I mean, creating is far more time intensive because you can put something out there. Are you going to have a community behind it? Are you an existing artist? I'm not saying someone can't be an artist, but there's just way more involved going into the whole process of being a creator, I think. I think the bar is much higher time-wise.
And I want to maybe bring in and branch this creation aspect, because we just recently put out a tweet with Chris Choice about Wyoming. And Wyoming is kind of like a metaverse digital city that, Vayner NFT is going to be setting up shop in. So Chris, maybe explain a little bit about, the metaverse in terms of, what it's going to be bringing to the next level of NFTs, and NFTs as people know it, and NFTs as people don't know it actually as well.
Yeah, thanks. So I think that whole concept is a really interesting interplay with the NFT space, right? Because NFTs inherently aren't necessarily like a digital world or anything like that. But with something like Wyoming, which is built from the ground up to be NFT forward, NFT native, I think you get a lot more interesting interactions coming out of there, right? So they've done a couple drops. So if you own a car, you have a 3D model of the car, you can trade that, but then you can literally drive it in Wyoming, their digital world. So that kind of stuff I think is super fun and super interesting, and where a lot of the direction we'll see with all of this. I kind of look at all the different profile projects as the first layer, like an alpha version of what your digital profile or digital avatar is going to be in the future, in a couple of years from now. So if I switch mine, I have a creature right now. If I can actually take this creature and like walk around Wyoming or in Decentraland or in Wilder World or whatever, and like make that like my full-time avatar, I think that's where this stuff starts to become really, really fun and really more unique. And it's just more than just, it's just more than a Twitter profile photo, which I think is really cool to begin with. But now you take the whole aspect of it, you have this whole kind of concept of who you are wrapped up in your digital, kind of like digital reality there. And then, so I'm trying to avoid using the word metaverse. I like to use the word digital worlds to refer to all of that, but we can dive in that a little bit later potentially too.
Wait, Chris, I'm already intrigued. Why are you either opposed or reluctant to use the word metaverse?
Okay, so I'm relatively old. I'm 40 years old. So I think that makes me kind of the old guy in the NFT space right now. Not the old guy, but on the older side. But I grew up reading a lot of cyberpunk and all that. And so Snow Crash to me, where the word metaverse comes from, is sort of a dystopian society where, yeah, the technology side of it's cool, but it doesn't actually represent something positive and good for the world. And then I that's kind of like my root of that word is like in that. And so I don't necessarily take it as like the technical side of it. I take it more as a reflection of society. And then roll that forward to like Ready Player One, which I think is most people's modern idea of like a metaverse environment. And same thing, it's a dystopian society where basically the world outside of the digital world sucks and everyone's like dying and depressed and all that and lives in like, basically like trash parks. And so to me, I think the word metaverse sort of encapsulates a lot of sort of like unchecked capitalism and sort of unchecked sort of greed in the country. Whereas the digital world represents sort of like a different reality that you can choose to join as you want to. And then yours going to have your goal in life for everyone and for in the space and all that should be have like a really positive default world experience. So basically the world that you live in, the world that you're born into, trying to make that as fun as possible. And then layer on top of that an additional digital world that doesn't have sort of like the negative connotations and dystopian connotations that the word metaverse comes from. And so that's sort of like my soapbox speech on that. So that's how I try to avoid it. Obviously, we have more brands sort of co-opting the word metaverse too. For better or for worse, that's how it's going to be. But I think thinking about these things as sort of like different worlds is like a really good way to approach it.
That is so interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. So that's a really good point. Once you do know where that word comes from. I'm curious, what do you include as the digital world? Whenever you say quote unquote the digital world, what's kind of involved in that image?
For me, I think it's multiple, right? I think there isn't just one. I think we have so many different progress and players out there right now trying to create their version of a digital world, right? And that could just be like
involved in that image.
For me, I think it's multiple, right? I think there isn't just one. I think we have so many different progress and players that just has so many things to explore, has so many different forms of community in it, and that in itself is its own world. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can transport that. And it's what happens there. What can happen. A massive multiplayer game. Decentraland or it just has so many things. Even another game. I used to play a lot of Final Fantasy 11 back in the day, right? And it had a very different world MMO experience than World of Warcraft did. They had the same, they were both MMOs, but the worlds were different. You couldn't interact between them. And so I think getting to a point where everyone has their own digital worlds to begin with is great. And then get to a point where each of those worlds can then connect and interact with each other is really, I think, the goal of the NFT space, or one of the goals, I think, in my mind, is like getting this to a point where you can actually own all your digital goods in such a way you can bring them wherever you want and enjoy them wherever you want to as well.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I was wondering also, sorry, Cryptonovo, go ahead.
I was going to say that's kind of the definition of like where we're trying to evolve to of Web 3.0, where you're able to take all your goods within one sack, aka your wallet, and take it wherever you want to go and carry it with you and own it while you're going through this process. And I find it like your definition of it is awesome, because there's different definitions depending on how people view it. And, it's wonderful hearing such advanced sides of it where it is evolving to this point in time where you are able to bring your NFTs along for the ride.
That's such a great point about how you can bring a subject to anyone, to 5 different people, and you'll get 5 different answers because they all come from their unique perspectives. So since we have some strategists and Chris in the technology part of it all, I'm wondering if we can take a step back and either your favorite part of an NFT or what an NFT is and why it's so valuable right now.
To me, the whole reason an NFT exists is why it's so valuable to me, and that's ownership. I think networks that are properly decentralized, they give you a sense of ownership that you wouldn't otherwise have outside of that system, outside of that network, right? So, we have all the right-click save people who don't understand, the basic concepts of ownership and what that entails, and the mechanism and the structure and the concept of NFTs is what's very exciting to me, because you have a way to prove ownership, to maintain your provenance, and to really have just far more control over all your digital assets. And that's done in a way that's also very efficient without a lot of overhead as far as, I mean, I know there's gas and things, but I mean, as far as like bureaucracy and things like that. So I think that's the most exciting thing. And if you look at the world, money is really, if you look at just assets in the world in its entirety, money are really the only fungible items in the world. Everything else that's not money are non-fungible items, right? So if you align the physical world to the digital world in that way, I think we're going to have that same ratio of money, whether it's digital money like crypto or money in the traditional sense like fiat money, is going to be absolutely like dwarfed by the size of non-fungible items like we have in the physical world, and the same thing like we're going to have in the digital world.
Yeah, that's such a great way to look at it. And the ownership is the most valuable. It sounded there.
I think there's a great question that someone had here that's based on that. Is like, how do you see the NFT launches changing in the future? Capsule 6 Studio asks. I view it as, a little bit like, think of how few people actually know what an NFT actually is right now. Where right now, maybe a larger project is having something released in the thousands. Or in the future, I mean, the release point could be a lot more depending on how many people we get onboarded. Alan, what are your thoughts on how you see NFT launches possibly being changed in the future, depending on if we do get an on-ramp of people flowing in?
I think there will be much more turnkey than we have today. If you think back, if you remember, if you're old enough to remember how the internet started and the amount of steps you had to take to do anything compared to today, where we have like Amazon's one-click sort of thing, right? Or they even just get you on a schedule and just send you things that you tell them that you want on some sort of cadence. We're going to get to that level with like NFTs, to where they're very turnkey, very simple, very easy to use. All the layers will be abstracted away. Where you can see it happening already. I mean, even from like 3 years ago or 4 years ago for NFTs and things like that. So I think we're going to definitely get to a point where it's just very turnkey, very user friendly, and hopefully it's on the right networks that still give people that true sense of ownership, where they're on a decentralized network and the UI layer is essentially what's abstracted away and provides a much better user experience.
Chris, for the people at home that might not be familiar with maybe the technical talk of what Alan was talking, because I'm pretty savvy with it, maybe can you layer it down to maybe someone who's listening for the first time of how they can possibly get interested in branching out with the NFT circuit into NFTs, etc.
Yeah, gotcha. We got a lot of echo on our Twitter space. Just a heads up on it. Just a heads up on you.
Sorry, I think that was me.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Usually Twitter Spaces are pretty good about that. For some reason, this one is extra echoey if you have two mics on at once. So I think the idea of ownership, which Alan talked about, is really core as well. And just I think getting onboarded to downloading MetaMask isn't that hard, but then thinking that it's just like relying on the fact that all your assets live in a browser plugin is like really scary, right? Like there are so many things with the browsers that can go wrong, and I think until we're at a point where everyone isn't living in fear, or it isn't super easy to be able to just immediately lose assets in your wallet, we're like not at a point yet where I think the user experience of actually onboarding people in the space is where we want it to be. I think it's a hard problem to solve. MetaMask's been working on this for 6 years now, probably, maybe a little bit longer. I forget exactly when they kind of spun out a consensus back then. But that the idea of ownership and secure ownership and owning everything yourself, it's a hard problem, but I think it's why it's taken a long time to get to where we are. And yet being able to we don't even have a good way to look at what's in your wallet, right? Most people just go to OpenSea right now when they want to look at their NFT collection. We have a couple of galleries that are forming up. I think just having the experience of all right, what do I own? How do I see it? How can I interact with it? Isn't quite there yet either. So that whole idea of ownership and experiencing things for yourself, I think needs to take a bit of a ways forward to get there. And then also the idea of just having more secure ways that most people can get onboarded to protect their assets, I think, is really important too, and protect the things that they own. Because the whole idea of decentralized ownership is you control your ownership of something, and that can be hard for a lot of people who are used to like just logging to Facebook and then forgetting their password 5 to 6 to 7 times a year and just letting Facebook reset their password for them. So it's definitely a new experience, and I think we have a little ways to go before people can like adapt to that.
The one thing I want to point out is that one of the companies we're working with, which I'm sure everyone knows, Coinbase, their NFT platform is looking to address a lot of that user experience as far as like viewing what's in your wallet and or what you want to show off versus you don't want to show off, and turning that into a social media like experience. So I mean, there's what Coinbase is doing is one iteration. I'm sure there are going to be many others that will help that user experience.
And that's, some of the alpha that we're trying to bring you is, stuff that we might see around our 9-to-5 jobs within Vayner NFT that we can bring to light, towards you guys with, some of the information out there from, going to Wyoming, going into Coinbase and bringing out different avenues of areas in the NFT space that, we're learning, but then again, we're teaching as well. And that's why we're bringing these spaces to you guys so that we can learn all together. Shout out to Video Game Freak, who's down in there. Nate Bear, thank you. Some of you guys should actually be back at work. Nate Bear, I see you in there. Ryan, I saw you in there. Jessica, make sure you guys are working hard. We're working hard for you guys, trying to get the message of the NFT space out there. Leslie or Green Giant, any updates? Good. I think I have a mixed mic with you, Leslie, so I'm turning mine off when you're on. So you're on, Leslie.
Okay, no problem. I also just wanted to give a shout out. I think we have Matt on here, Bobby Quinn, and we're talking about how it's so important to onboard people. And at Vayner NFT, that's one of our main goals and biggest challenges when we take on a client. Is helping these brands get onboarded into the space. So I wanted to ask everyone's advice here for reps and getting in the space or helping their friends get in the space. Chris, what's your take on that?
Great question. I think it's one of those things where there was a couple years ago where everyone came home and convinced their family to buy crypto, right? It was that, it was more than a couple years ago now, but there was that one winter where things super spiked up. I think it was 2008 maybe. Not 2008, 2018. I'm dating myself. I just really understanding like what, it's a great question. I think like having people just like browse around OpenSea or some of the other marketplaces around to get an idea of like what's there, what this stuff is from a visual standpoint is helpful. I think it's going to be pretty hard to get like your mom or your grandma or your dad or your grandfather set up with like a ledger and a MetaMask so that they're like all good to go from day one. I think that's a spot where I think a lot of people are still kind of figuring that out for themselves, let alone be able to teach that to it. I think it's just like, because if you look at it in a bubble, it like doesn't necessarily make sense. But I think trying to understand what Alan had talked about earlier about really having like core ownership of stuff and being able to like take stuff with you. I think for people that play video games, it could be an easier transition. The fact that you have to pay like Blizzard your monthly sub, I'll come back to that as an example, just to like look at the stuff you spent 8-9 years collecting and earning on your own is like kind of annoying. Like, why can't you just, take that with you as you actually did earn it? So onboarding, I think, really kind of takes, I don't know, a different way for different people. And I feel like that wasn't like the best of answers, but definitely open to some counterpoints there.
Yeah, any other ideas? Alan, I know your Twitter is dedicated to helping people understand what's going on in the space. How do you, all of the speakers here advanced. How do you take it a step back
just me here breaking out. They were just breaking a lot of it.
Okay, sorry. Hopefully I'm coming through now.
I'll grab the mic right now. I don't want to drop it again, but I think one thing that I've learned is gaining that knowledge and that information. And part of that was actually learning from Alan and getting on his on Twitter and just following his tweets and learning information that he was pulling and aggregating from sources that, he knows from his circle of friends. And I was able to learn from that. And then for me, being able to talk to my friends about it openly on the airwaves, where I'm able to, share different NFT projects. And, people can come to their own conclusion, but it's learning from those other people and trying to pull as many different people within the space together to see what there is to offer, to see what's out there. Because, unfortunately, not all the projects are successful. Not all the projects have good roadmaps. But if you can sit there and learn maybe the best part of each one, you can come to your own conclusion about, what direction you want to go in. If you do want to possibly go buy an NFT, or if you do want to help a family member or a friend learn about NFTs, and that educational process is the pinnacle of how you're going to gain the information is just learning, and repetition breeds success. So being in the space, being in the Discords, talking to the right people all add up to to a conclusion in your own mind, if it's a project you want to look towards or project you want to pass on. And part of that for me was, looking towards advice from other people in the space that have multiple followers. Alan Henna was one of them. So, Alan, how do you go about, deciphering, how to teach others in the space? Because you've been really good at it for such a long time. Is it something that you second nature to you? Is it information you're pulling from others, or is it just you're just having fun and just going with it, and it just all the chips fall where they may?
I think it's all those things. I've always had an ability to really boil down complex, concepts or ideas to like simple, either analogies or ways to explain it to people, right? But I mean, I can't say that I just learn everything on my own. I learn through others. I learn a lot through experience, failing, succeeding, right? So a lot of it is just time bound that I've just put in a lot of time, right? So, and fortunately, I have a very strong technical background, so certain concepts come very, very easy to me, and it just continues to build upon. And a lot of crypto is really just abstracting technical sort of implementations and concepts to like something simpler that people actually interact with. So that's what it is. And I do enjoy, I like making little charts or pictures so that people can have like some sense of what it is when they hear certain terms, or what a process looks like, or I don't know. I just feel like if you put information out there for people, it helps them feel more comfortable, and then they come into the space. Ultimately, my whole goal is to get more and more people into crypto, into NFTs, because I think this is a way that we really disrupt a lot of status quos.
I'm a very visual learner, and I'm actually digging around on your link tree, and it's just filled with just like as I call the Allen charts. I'm sorry with that echo. The Allen charts, where you're able to look through the charts very distinctly and see what is an NFT. Can I just right click save? Are NFTs for you in a flow chart? And you're seeing that, chart after chart, line after line, which makes it very easy for at least my eyes to understand it, being a very visual and audio learner opposed to reading things. With that, Green Giant, how about you? How are you helping maybe onboard people? It's holiday time here in the States. Over across the pond in the UK, you guys are still talking NFTs. What are you going to be talking about when we're over here on our holiday?
Well, I'm still at university, so a lot of my friends and people I know, they don't have a lot of money to spend. They don't have thousands to spend on what they see as, in all honesty, just a JPEG, because that is what it is to them. So I try and show them potential NFTs out there that are more suitable. For example, POAPs, which if you stay on till the end of this talk, we'll give you the secret code for this Twitter Spaces POAP,
But that's what I try and show the people in my circle is solutions that are just a bit friendlier and a bit less daunting. Because when you do see images go for that much, you're not going to get into this space. It's going to be a bit scary, in all honesty. So I try and show them the solutions such as POAP, which are a bit easier. You don't necessarily need an address, and it's just a bit more of a simple stepping stone to get into the space, which is potentially quite daunting. And a lot of people don't have a crypto address. Like, I don't know the exact figures, but it's a very, very small number. And although younger people do get it and understand it a bit quicker, potentially, it's still a big step for some people. So that's what mainly I do with my circle of mates in that perspective, which I'm sure a lot of people share as well.
And that's one thing we saw at NFT NYC is a lot of introduction to people getting in initially to the NFT scene is going to the POAPs, going to the physical galleries, going to the talks, getting POAPs, maybe waiting in line for an event or within a particular event. And it is an easy way of getting yourself an NFT that, you're not, as you say, is daunting for maybe someone that can't afford the gas to pay to get an initial NFT. So why don't you explain a little bit about the POAP that, we're going to feature with our Vayner NFT Q&A sessions with number one here.
Yeah, 100%. So I'll just carry on from that. It's all about tangibility with some people. Although a lot of kids and people in general do understand the idea of digital ownership and how that can be a thing, some people just can't grasp their minds, and they do need that physical thing, whether that do be a gallery, a digital frame, or even a park where you scan that QR code because you're physically there. So for us, we're going to be hosting this NFT Q&A session hopefully once a week, and for every single one we're going to hopefully do a POAP because we want to reward you guys, the most active listeners there. So in order to redeem this week's POAP, you're going to have to download the POAP app, so whatever app store you're using, and then you're going to have to go onto the app and then simply type in the code Gary V. So that's all one word, capital G, capital V, so GARYVEE. And once you've put that in, you should be able to put in your ETH address or your email or however way you want to sign up and claim it, and you're done. It's so simple, and that's the beauty of it. So hopefully you guys have all got that sorted out, but if you want to ask me at the end with any help or any steps to get that, then feel free after this is finished just to DM me, and I'll happily help you through it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Green Giant. This is the perfect segue while everyone is working on getting their POAPs right now. We were also talking about onboarding people. We got a question around what advice you would give to artists who are just entering the NFT space from Drip Ballers NFT, who looks like is here right now. So let me approve this question request, and then here we go. You can now speak. Do you want to ask your question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, loud and clear. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity here.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Do you want to ask it to Chris, Cryptonovo, Alan, and Green Giant?
I do. I just want to say thank you for the follow back yesterday. I really appreciate it. My question is, in regards to new artists and creators coming into the space, what advice could you give us on community engagement, utility, and overall growth? Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Maybe we can start. Yep, Cryptonovo, want to start?
I'll start with saying before starting a project, make sure you have friends that are going to be able to follow you. Sometimes, people have great ambitions and have a great idea and great project, but if they don't have a base core people following them, it's hard to get the momentum going, and you don't want to be, stale. A large part of that is huge community management. And with that is Discord, because that's where I've learned a wealth of information, and I got a wealth of my friends that are in my direct circle. That, you know, a lot of them right there that I gave shout outs to earlier, you know, the video game freaks, the Tony Herreros of the world, you know, those are prime people that I met in Discord just chatting with. And from there, you build those combinations and links, and you're really truly building those community members within 5-10 minutes of a Discord chat or a video chat. And I feel that's where Web 2.0 is evolving into Web 3.0, is the accelerant of the way we communicate with people through Twitter Spaces, through Clubhouse, through all these means that got accelerated through, you know, what happened, you know, a couple marches ago. So I think community is a huge part of that, and having someone manage that community is another huge aspect.
Yeah, I would agree with everything Novo said. I think the other thing is consistency. And people have a very, it only matters when it all of a sudden matters, but time matters a whole lot. If you look at like a lot of narratives that form, a lot of times people are putting on like, oh, this project has been around for this long, or they've done this consistently, right? So like doing things consistently for a long period of time is important, because what it does is it lets a very natural and organic narrative form around whatever that community is, or whatever the intent of that project is. I know it seems counterintuitive because a lot of projects seem to get accelerated really quick, like in a matter of like days, sometimes even hours. But ultimately, if you're looking for something long-term, if you're a creator, being consistent for a long period of time is really going to get you a strong foundation of like people that are there for the right reasons, and then you spend a lot less of your time trying to manage that community for the wrong reasons.
And yeah, and I'll add on to a separate thread here. So I actually helped my sister with her first NFT launch as well, and she didn't know anything about anything about the NFT space at all. And so one of the biggest learnings I took away from helping her figure this stuff out is just really understanding the tools and the platforms that are at your disposal. Right. So understanding like, all right, OpenSea, cool, great. But what does it actually mean to mint directly on OpenSea versus like having your own contract put together? And what does that mean if you want to do subsequent drops or more things down the road? And so understanding the different platforms, I think, is a really good basis point as well, especially if you're new to the space. It's really confusing, right? If you jump in here, there's all these new words. Even NFT is like a weird way to phrase things and all that. And this is stuff that like doesn't necessarily make sense from the get-go, but there is a learning curve. But yeah, spending some time in there, look at OpenSea, look at Rarible, look at like a Super Rare or a Foundation, and like just check out the different ways that people are approaching this, and especially approaching with their art. Because each of those platforms has kind of a slightly different community involved in just the aspect of who uses them and all that. So layering on everything else is, yeah, just really kind of understand your tools. And I think that makes it such that you can kind of like have a much more successful launch when you do actually put something live.
Chris, sorry, go ahead, Trip Ballers.
Sorry, I was just going to say thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your question. Cryptonovo, you wanted to add something?
No, I just wanted to say, yeah, we followed you. Thanks for the question. Thanks for following along back at, Vayner NFT. And, if you really want to get like the latest information, I mean, follow the people I've been following, not so much that, maybe so much everyone else is following, but, the people that are up here hosting. I mean, these are the people, they're at Vayner NFT for a reason. They're on the ground floor of, what's happening around the space. So I follow them prior to coming to Vayner NFT. I strongly recommend that as well, because we're all pulling on the rope. We're all pulling in the same direction. So we might as well, keep that information clear and open to us. So feel free to follow Green Giant. I know Leslie's not up there, but Leslie Wheeler, make sure you're following her. Alan Henna, and then also Chris. The choice is right. Leslie, you're not going to get off that easy. What have you been doing to help your friends, family members, etc., get into the NFT space, and what recommendations are you giving to them?
Yes. Well, first of all, apologies in the beginning of the call. I was connected to the wrong Wi-Fi, so there's that. but hopefully I'm coming through more clearly now. So thanks for bearing with me through my first Twitter Spaces ever. So thanks everyone for being here for Vayner NFT's first Twitter Space and mine. Onboarding people. Basically, for me, that started out as explaining to my friends and family what I do and how I'm able to help people sell JPEGs and why that makes sense. So the first steps I take when onboarding people, I actually turned this into a podcast, like 10, 15-minute episodes, because when I was learning myself, I actually took the route of understanding personal finances and in real world financial literacy. And from there, I felt ready enough to dive into crypto. So once I felt like, okay, what is investing in general, and getting a grasp on that and not being intimidated by it. I think a lot of us, especially women, aren't used to thinking about understanding how to invest, what it means, what we should do with our money. And so many of us are too afraid to admit that it intimidates them and they don't know where to start. So that was the first step for me. And then I dove into the crypto space once I felt like I understood what was going on with my money. Then I understood inflation a lot better, and I understood why there was a demand for crypto. Usually I take people through Bitcoin and what that serves, the purpose that Bitcoin serves to protect your money from inflation, and then dive into the blockchain, what makes everything possible, what makes cryptocurrency, in particular possible, and the smart contracts, because that is where I see Ethereum most valuable, because it plays with the smart contracts and NFTs more than Bitcoin can, because Bitcoin just has a different purpose, in my opinion. So understanding a bit of the onboarding process of cryptocurrency, moving through Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchain, you start to realize that it's a combination of finance and technology. So it's not just, you can't have one without the other in cryptocurrency. So the reason NFTs are so valuable, or so revolutionary, I should say, is because they add on to the finance technology, they add on creativity and art and beauty, and you can actually play with what the blockchain allows you to do. And we can't even imagine what it's going to allow us to do in 3, 5, 10 years, even 1 year, because like when Web 2.0 came out, we couldn't envision things like Airbnb and Uber and things like that. So I think just having a very basic knowledge of the overall importance of each process of crypto, and I see that process myself as Bitcoin, it was the most mainstream for me, then the blockchain, Ethereum, and just understanding. You don't need to understand exactly how everything works, in the same way you don't need to understand how to assemble your laptop in order to be able to use it and see why it's valuable and what you can do with it. So just understanding why something is important, it allows you to see how exciting NFTs are and understand what makes them different than physical art, for example. And Chris, I know you mentioned something earlier about the difference between having this digital NFT art and IRL art. And we did have a question from, again, thank you everyone so much for submitting your questions. We will only be taking questions that are submitted on Twitter. So thank you everyone for requesting to speak. But if you do have a question, please tweet at us and we will answer it next Tuesday, or hope to. But we had a question around artists getting into the space for the first time. So this question was from Kamins Cummings 28. And they were wondering how normal, and I will get off my soapbox in 1 second. I do love to mention the value of art for artists getting into the space, because I know me and Green Giant are working right now with Bojangles on collaborating with artists. And a big exciting thing around that is that although artists can sell their work, imagine if Van Gogh, one of the most well-known artists of all time, he went his entire life never selling a project for more than $100. We've even seen something similar with people going 20 years without selling a single piece of art for more than $100. Well, if Van Gogh would have created his art as an NFT, then right now his family, his estate would be billionaires. We're talking about an opportunity that allows for generational wealth. And wealth aside, this is something that goes much beyond just what you're putting out right now, because as I mentioned, we can't see where this technology is going to go. So yeah, that's just the first thing I love to point out. But Chris, I would love to hear your take on in real life art versus digital art.
Yeah, definitely. So first off, can we get a little bit of digital applause for Leslie up there? I think that was a fantastic description and way of thinking about Bitcoin versus Ethereum and all that. And I would encourage everyone. I would encourage everyone here. Actually, I'm going to give everyone here homework. Okay. So everyone on this spaces right now needs to be able to describe to their friends what the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum is. Right. So just start there and really sort of dive in and really have an understanding of why they're actually very different at the end of the day. And kind of dive into potentially how Ethereum got started and why it got started. So that's my take-home homework for everyone today in the call. Now, in terms of having sort of like digital art versus physical art, and even potentially like how to get started as a physical artist, one of the things that I see in the NFT space and even in like the digital world space we had before is this sort of like interplay between art that exists like on your desk in your room and in your home, and art that exists like in the metaverse, right, in your digital worlds and all that. And how do you actually take a single piece that you own and bring it back and forth between them and enjoy it in both spaces? So having like a default world enjoyment of, let's say you have let's see, okay, so I have one project called Gods. They're like these 3D rendered pyramids essentially, but they built them in sort of 4K, and they were built to specifically to be displayed on like these holographic displays. I always forget the name of this thing. Looking Glass. There we go. They were built to be displayed in these like Looking Glass devices, which are really which were built from the ground up to display 3D and sort of quote unquote holographic art. And being able to like have something like that like on your desk in your room and enjoy it, and then be able to go into worlds you want to go into, whether it's like Miami or Decentraland or something else, and actually enjoy that art in that world too is really cool, right? So I think having that interplay is something that I'm looking forward to. There's some cost implications there. I think devices are a little expensive right now, but being able to have like a better way of displaying something that happens in any environment is really cool to me, and a cool idea to me. So that's the thought there. In terms of I think the original question about potentially getting into digital art or NFTs as a physical artist, I think you just really have to be true to your work and sort of figure out how do you bridge the divide there and bridge the gap. And also figure out, can you, because there's a couple ways to go about it. It may not be the best one to answer, but one thing that I think about as well is like going back, it's just ownership, right? So ownership is really just cool. You can actually sell an NFT that proves ownership of your digital piece of art, and you can try to figure out a way to even just, trade that back and forth or have a more accessible way of actually doing it. Actually, the first NFT that I bought when I was doing my research was like a digital sort of like movie clip of a photo that someone added additional effects to it. But what I got out of that was actually the physical print as well, which is really cool. So having that ability to get both things at once, like a digital version and a physical version, I think is really interesting, especially for photographers or people that are doing sort of more one-of-one style of pieces of art. I think that makes a lot of sense, and exploring that is a great way to get into this space as sort of a physical artist.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Thank you so much for that, Chris. I wanted to bring Green Giant up a minute to also share again the special code for anyone who joined late. I also noticed, I think Avery just logged out. I wanted to give her a shout out. Our fearless leader, Avery Akineni, joined in. And if you're not following her, she is just one of the most incredible people to follow in the NFT space, and she is the president of Vayner NFT. So I think I just missed her, but find her on Twitter, Avery Akineni. And then Green Giant, do you want to jump up here and give everyone the secret code for their POAP? Let's give everyone another chance to claim their POAP.
Yeah, so well done everyone for making it this far and listening to us. So the secret code is Gary V. So capital G, capital V, because it is case sensitive, and that spells GARY
So in order to claim your POAP, there's no website right now. You're going to have to go directly onto the POAP app. So you're going to have to download that and then type in the secret phrase Gary free. So it's as simple as that. And again, if you need any help with that, I've already got a few DMs from people and I've helped sorted them out with their POAP. And it's great because this is our very first spaces. So we wanted to commemorate that and reward you guys for listening. So it's a really special occasion. We're going to do this every week. So hopefully you'll get the hang of it. But no worries if you're having a bit of difficulties, just DM me and I'll help you guys out with it.
Green Giant, I got one question before we take off. Actually, two. All right. You don't celebrate Thanksgiving over there across the pond, but your favorite Thanksgiving related food item. And then also, you want to join us next Tuesday as we get some Bojangles going on Spaces here?
I love it. So I'm actually from a farming family, so we'll have to go with turkey. Absolutely, a big golden turkey. And then next week we'll talk a bit about Bojangles. We're working with them, some artists. It's been incredible. I love working with artists. They're just so creative, so passionate, and they're just bringing a lot of fun to the project. So make sure to stay tuned for that next week, and got a lot of fun things to talk about. So thank you, David.
Chris, I'm gonna go right over to you. Your favorite Thanksgiving treat. It could even be dessert, whatever's on the table. And then also, I just want to, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for hosting me. I'm so excited we have a bunch of people listening in. And so really my favorite Thanksgiving treat is the cranberry sauce that comes out of the can, because that is literally the best thing you can have on Thanksgiving. And it's nothing else replaces that. I'm sorry.
Alan, over to you here. All right. What do you get on that purple hat, that clown nose, and that beard of yours?
I would say really the only thing I look forward to is pumpkin pie. That's it.
I'm going to go around this question. It's not so much about the food for me. It's about the turkey bowl beforehand, and it's about the friends and family after you're done eating and the conversations. That's what I'm looking forward to the most. Just like the conversations we've had here in the past hour. I hope to catch most, if not all of you next Tuesday, but I want to give it over to the hostess with the mostest, the coolest of the bluest. Leslie, why don't you take it away?
Amazing. Okay, well, we will wrap it up here then. I will say that although, Thanksgiving, it's a beautiful time with friends and family, I have to say for me, it's all about the pecan pie. So I was raised in the South. You can't have anything better than pecan pie. So there's my challenge to Alan on the pumpkin pie. Thank you all so much for submitting your questions. Dripballers NFT, Court 4CY, NFTs Anonymous, Caymans 28, Capsule 6 Studios. Thank you so much for sending over amazing questions. I'm so sorry if we couldn't get to your question for this one. Next week we will be talking with Bojangles, getting into the NFT space. But please tweet at us any questions you have. Feel free to tag Alan, tag Cryptonovo, tag Christopher, tag Green Giant. You can tag me at Leslie GMI, tag Vayner NFT. We will try to answer all of your questions. Like I said, we are going to be doing this every Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This has been an amazing call. Last chance for the POAP. The secret code is Gary V. That's capital Gary, capital VEE. So claim your POAP. You'll never be able to have the opportunity to get the first ever Vayner NFT Twitter Spaces POAP. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Alan, Chris, Choice, Cryptonovo, Green Giant. I mean, it was amazing having you as the first guest.
Thanks for having us. Stay positive and love life. Peace.
Thanks all. See you.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
All right, my friends, that was trying some stuff there. See if we can record our Vayner NFT spaces. Yeah, that's it. So experimental stuff. We'll see if it works. This is Cryptonovo. It's one of these tabs. I'm hoping. This is Cryptonovo saying stay positive and love life. Peace. Oh, gotta push this button over here. Cancel. Wrong button. I almost didn't save that.